G'day boys, this little video is all about plans and having the correct plans and information. How to get rid of the old stuff and what are the plans. Because without that, we've got no direction. Where if we've got the wrong plans, it's like having a compass that's actually not pointing to north when we think it is. So what makes up the plans is basically the quote, the plans, meeting notes, and site sketches. So let's run through them now. Alright guys, so let's get into it. So when we go into a job, let's pick this current job that I'm on. We've got 3 folders. So for you guys, for the foreman, you see site documents. You don't need to worry about these two. So what we're talking about is navigating through the job, having the right scope, having the right plans. So let's jump in here into plans, which is where the main stuff is. So for this job here, it's pretty early on. Nothing's been updated. So what you got in here, old plans, there's nothing in there. But at some point, as a new architectural drawing comes through, you would drag this plan up into there and see you later, just dump it in. So that's your job, guys, managing these documentation and making sure you have the right plans on site and people have the right plans, making sure you tear up the actual printed plans you've got on site and get rid of them. Structural, so in here we've got structural RFIs, there's nothing at the moment. So these structural drawings will probably not change. You probably won't get a structural update, but the scope is increased or slightly changed by the RFIs, requests for information. So that might be a screenshot of an email with a picture attached where you say, hey, Mr. Engineer, can we do this? Can we change that? Is this okay? Or he might be on site doing an inspection and the same sort of thing happens. So the one that I really want to narrow in on a little bit extra with this video is the Aspire quote. Now, I know you guys have probably heard me say before something like open up this quote once a week and read through it. Now, this just has to start happening because this quote, not looking at this quote is almost as bad as just not looking at the plans, just starting to set out framework or whatever we're doing, or starting to order structural steel without going through the plans. What it will do by looking at this quote once a week, it'll allow you to clear your head a little bit as you cross out things that have been done. As excavation's been done, cross it out. As formwork's been done, cross it out. So as you move through the project, you're crossing things out that you don't need to look at. When the scope's been completed, you're crossing it out. So it's giving you a sense of completion. The next thing it's doing, it's prompting you, as you read through the whole quote once a week, skim through, it's prompting you about things that should be on the plans that aren't, like this, like a wall detail, or oh hang on, there's a step in the basement. If I set out to the actual wall and then pour the concrete to there, it's going to be 100 mil short. Things like that. It's going to prompt you and think, okay, hang on a minute, we're getting close to roof. It's just reminding me roof structure. Hey, we don't have the color and it's not in the quote and it's not in the plan. I want to get onto that. All sorts of things will even the trades, you'll think, oh, hang on a minute, the trades are responsible. You'll keep them more accountable as you see what they're responsible for. You'll see what's missing too. So if it's not on the quote and it's not in the plans and it's not down here in not included and it's not in the PC and it's not in the prime cost, then where is it? It's an extra, it's a variation. So by going through the quote and understanding it well, you'll be all over that, which is absolutely important. The other thing while we're down there is PCs. Understanding this list properly and this list, understanding what's what's an extra. So external balustrades, knowing that when you get a quote, we're happy to get one quote. We're happy to get the guys that we trust and know are good. We get them in, make, as long as their quote is decent. We check it off with the architect. If it's under this amount, then we should be fine. If it comes in at 9 grand, then we can pretty much go ahead, keep the ball rolling. If the quote comes in at 15 grand, then we need to talk. We need to talk to me, we need to talk to the architect, we need to talk to the client, we need to see if there's any other options. But knowing how to subby these things out, and then also letting Riz know in the office so that she can allocate the actual prices, making sure that the invoices or the credit card receipts from these things Usually credit card receipts will be from these things. As you purchase the hot water unit or whatever, you'll send her through that, and she'll know that it's part of the PCs, and to allocate that cost to it. She can then update a spreadsheet, because all this stuff, prime costs and provisional sums, are really, really important for the client. It's really important that Riz gets them accurate, gets them updated on a really clear spreadsheet, and she actually sends that through. Each time we invoice, they get this spreadsheet sent through that shows them exactly where they're at. So for you guys, the flow on of you guys understanding this quote and knowing this quote is just real basic, like the plans. Like you've got to know it. But also it flows on and then helps us relay the right information to the client. It makes the client's experience better. But at the end of the day, if you're not looking through this quote once a week, you got to ask yourself, are you doing your job properly? When you're putting your timesheet in to get paid, ask yourself, have you looked through the quote? Have you looked through the plans that week? Have you read the fine print? Have you done a skim over the plans? When you're skimming through this, another one you should think about, especially if you're getting out of the ground stage, is you should be skimming over these notes on the structural drawings. There's not a single builder that I know that does this, and they get themselves in trouble. Knowing these notes, knowing what the cover is, knowing what the different types of concrete you need to order is. Suspended slab 32. What if you're not that experienced in ordering concrete, and for the day you ordered and started pouring 25 MPa? Things like that. So the next one I want to go through, so we've covered, I think we've covered plans, making sure you got the right plans, updating it properly. The other one, which is part of the scope, so we're talking about the scope here, is site meeting notes. So at the moment, I haven't really got any site meeting notes. I dropped this in here because it sort of becomes part of the scope. This is just a letter to the neighbor for this particular job, just discussing what we're going to do, how we've got to gain access to get our services through, just giving them a bit of an update. So for me, I just thought, look, that's somewhere easy to store it. I don't have too many folders in this job at the moment. But generally, site meeting notes and site sketch and note keeps. So is what we've called it. So any site sketches that I do on site with you that actually help, understand the plans, that help show something that's not shown on the plans. And the same things happens in the meeting notes. There's usually drawings that show something that's not on the plans. So that increases the scope of works. We'll quickly go into another job. We'll go into Alexandria. Actually, we'll jump out of there because Alexandria, the architect usually does the notes. On other jobs, when we have a meeting with the client, it's generally going to be me that does the notes. So we'll go into Kiama, which is a good example job, and we'll go down to site meetings. So we've got quite a few in here. We've actually got even some pre-tender, so where we hadn't even signed contracts, and I was coming up with a few design issues or a few ideas, or trying to help the client out. So these are just handwritten notes. Let's get out of there. Let's go to one that's a bit more up to date. So site meeting notes, say 6. Let's jump in here. So with the site meeting notes, not only does it add scope, it adds clarification for the client. It helps them feel that we're on board, we understand, we've got a track of the changes. It also, action required. So depending on who was there, it keeps people accountable. So again, bit of a layout here. None of this is on the drawing. The aircon units are shown out the front of the job. It's a complete mess. So if you've got a set of plans on site and your plumber comes to start roughing in and doing whatever, he's going off the plan. He doesn't have this. So that's where you need to be really, really careful of these sorts of things that actually become part of the plan. In some cases, the plan will need to be updated to suit this so that people are all on the same page. In other cases, you can just have these site meeting notes on you, and again, it's like the quote. You flick through, You cross out things that have been done, and you highlight things that are potentially going to get missed, because there's no point having these meetings and talking about something and then just not doing it. That's just the worst thing. Here's another example, another meeting note. So there's quite a bit going on in here, discussing all sorts of things with the client. Services. So a lot of this information needs to be on hand, ready to go to relay across to the contractors or whoever's involved. So here's a good example of one that's not quite enough info. So we've got to start here with a drawing, what needs to be done. We probably need to draw it in a bit more detail and make sure the client understands what they're getting. Make sure, because with communication, this stuff here and the client, like I've said before, the person that's at fault when communication fails is the communicator. We can't blame the client. We've got to explain things really well. Whether we use media, we use videos on Dropbox, whatever we do, we've got to make sure we get the point across. We're completely screwed if we don't have the right information in the first place. So I hope I haven't dragged that on too long. The big takeaways from this is to have the right plans, to have things formatted really well so you can file things. So here we've got old plans. This looks like a little bit of a mess. Probably got some things in the wrong place here. So it's up to you guys to help me keep that up to date and schmick. Off form wall plan, things like this, we just don't need them anymore. So they could probably go up, let's do it now, up into old plans, dump them in there. We're just making this a bit neater and tidier. That way we've got 5 or 6 things in here that we're using. Stairs, what is this? Revision of the stairs. Again, that's I think I would call that an old plan. I'll keep it there for now. So yeah, anyway guys, I hope that's been helpful, and maybe you got something out of it. Cheers guys.